Welcome to Quills and Chills. I'm your host, Rick Clifton, and I'm going to introduce you to the creators who give fear its voice. Together, we'll explore the strange, the unsettling, and the unforgettable. So go ahead and dim those lights because that conversation starts now. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Quills and Chills. I'm your host, Rick Clifton. Today, I'm super excited, or wonderfully excited, I should say, to have my returning guest, Mr. David Berger. And today, we're not talking about his book or my book or any of that. Instead, we're going to be fanboying out over one of our all-time favorite heroes. This is a character that we've talked about for the better part of 2 years now, maybe, since we first met, and we have such a shared love for her, and we kept threatening to do this episode, so we finally said we're getting it done. So today we're talking about none other than Wonder Woman. If you couldn't figure it out, from David has put me to shame with his Wonder Woman temple behind him, but with the 50-year anniversary of the television show, 84 years now, I think, in comics, and of course, the recent Wonder Woman day, it just felt like a perfect time to come together and talk about all things Wonder Woman. So welcome back. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate this. This is going to be fun.
I'm super excited, and thank you for joining me. This is going to be fun. So the first question I have is probably the easiest that you'll get today. How did your love of Wonder Woman start? That's what I wanted.
Well, that's a good question. My love of Wonder Woman started largely through the comics. As I was wandering through, well, back when there were no comic book stores, there were only stationery stores back then with the spinner racks of comics. And I remember picking up like Justice League or other comics and seeing her in there. And I thought, well, this is interesting. I didn't know many female superheroes at the time. And around the same time, I was also getting into Greek mythology. And I don't know if it was in the TV show or in the comics or somewhere where I learned about her origin and saw that it was tied to the Greek gods. And I thought, wow, this is amazing because two of my loves now are tied together. And then after that came the TV show, which then cemented. I mean, I was literally sitting probably a foot or two from the screen the whole time. And,
we both were, I'm sure.
Trying to master how to do the spin and all of that. And that was my childhood. And although my mom understood my interest, I was never lucky enough to get like a Wonder Woman doll when I was a child because I was the boy in the family. But, my sister, one of my sisters got, it's hard to find now, the Wonder Woman play set that had the plastic bracelets and the plastic belt and the jump rope. And I remember taking it from my sister and playing around with it and trying to wear it and doing the thing. And so, But yeah, since I was a kid, I've always loved her.
I did too. I used socks at one point. I did paper at one point. And then obviously when I got much older, I did leather and then metal. And so it's just, I've seen your cosplay outfit. So I know you again put me to shame when it comes to all things Wonder Woman. So I have a question for you then. So perfecting the spin, does it bug you when you see people do it wrong? Because it still bugs me to this day when I see people do it wrong.
Whenever I see anybody on a video doing it and they do it, their hands aren't placed right.
Exactly. It makes me insane.
I know. Or they spin the other way. It's like, okay, no. And it makes me stand up and say, let me show you how to do it. And then I do it. And it's like, okay, see, you can't be here to see me, but that's how it's done. No, I get it.
Yeah, no, it drives me crazy. And I don't know, little known fact, maybe or maybe not. Did you know that Linda Carter invented that spin? So I think the story goes that they were trying to figure out how to keep her from disrobing on camera in the television show. And she was like, well, why don't I just spin? And she's the one that invented the spin, which then got adapted into to the comics, into not only the written comic, the paper comics, but also the animated shows as well. So
yeah.
So
very
I
much
think
so.
you've sort of mentioned your earliest memory of the character. I'm kind of curious though, why you think she resonates, especially when compared to all of the other DC icons or even Marvel icons for that matter. For me, I look at her. I'm a fan of both DC and Marvel, and when I look at a lot of the other Marvel icons, I don't know, they just don't stand out to me like Wonder Woman did. So, and
Well,
I'm
I
just
mean, I was
wondering
interested in
why she
comics.
resonates with you.
Well, I was interested in Marvel and DC also. I mean, I didn't before there was really a lot of rivalry of the two back when I was a kid because comic book stores, like I said, they weren't really a thing. So I would pull any comics off the rack. But I never saw anything quite like her. There were female characters like I remember Storm and I remember a few others from the comics. But for me, maybe it was the costume that just struck, because the colors were such vibrant colors. Um, I don't know. I've always found her, for me, my draw to her is tied to her love of truth and strength without being some sort of barbaric. Like Superman is always known for his, he can bring his fists to any fight.
Right.
She doesn't have to do that. She can, but she doesn't have to. And when I see her, like especially on the TV show, Linda Carter did a great job with embodying the compassionate side of the character when she would approach people and try to talk to them and engage with them, and rather than just punch the hell out of them, and that I was like, wow. And then in the comic, she would try to be much more gentle and bring more of that sense of empathy, which
At
Batman
least
doesn't do, you know.
yeah, in the
Yeah.
early versions of the comics, for sure, there was a lot of that. Then there was like the 52, was it DC 52 when they changed it and they moved away from that side of her and she became more the warrior for a bit
Hmm.
before they retconned her again.
Yes.
But
Yes.
no,
Yes.
I
Yes.
agree. I think for me, much like what you said earlier, I think what initially drew me to her was the fact that she was tied to Greek mythology, and I was also a fan of Greek mythology. And then it was also the fact that she never needed a man to rescue her, and that's something I seem to remember very early on. I remember a lot of the shows that I really liked. I came to her not through the comics first. I came through the TV show first,
Hmm.
and then went to the comics after that. But for me, it was kind of that in that era where we were starting to see very strong female personalities like Charlie's Angels and the women of Dynasty and Melrose Place and all of these different characters, right? And so for me, I
Yeah.
think that's sort of what stood out. And then the fact that she was rooted in Greek mythology just really brought it home for me. But that independence, that clarity, that conviction that this character has always had has always been something that hits harder for me than any power set that she could have. So,
Hmm. No, I agree. I agree.
so as a fan, what do you think was happening in publishing at the time when, and I'm going all the way back here to the 1940s, what do you think was happening in publishing at that time that allowed a character like Wonder Woman to break through? Because at that point in time, I mean, she was kind of, what Wonder Woman was not typical,
Oh,
for depictions of women. So I'm just kind of curious what you think allowed her to kind of break through in the first place.
I've done some studying and researching over the years about Marston and his interests in the character and why he wanted to bring her about. And I'm not 100% sure at that specific time, like what was going on in the industry, unless they just were caught up into his idea that he wanted to bring a new character out there to counter the male figures that were in the world at the time. Like Superman was a good one, Batman, and her original name was supposed to be Suprema,
Oh,
not
I don't
Wonder
think I
Woman.
knew that.
Yeah. So they changed that because it was too close to the Superman name. But his interest in bringing back in the earlier comics too, bringing out the feminine ideals and bringing out the idea of strength in women and the sisterhood concepts that you saw, especially in the first season of the TV series. A lot of that was there. Not that it disappeared in the later seasons, but when in the World War II season, she was all about sisterhood and and women should be this way, and so on. But I would love to have been a fly on the wall when Marston, projected this idea of a character and dressed the way she was. She was not dressed in a modest fashion either.
That's right.
So, and contrary to popular belief, she did not wear a skirt. She wore culottes. Most people think she was wearing a skirt. But the fact that she was, bare shouldered, and she, everything about her arms and legs were bare. And this is a time where modesty amongst women was important. And you see all the fashions of the time. And so, it's funny when you see the very first pilot episode of the series, she's walking down the street and all these other women are like pearl clutching, and her comment to the dress shop person is like, there's so much fabric here. She's like, oh, this is basically stingy. You should have seen us before the war and how much. And she's like, what? So bringing that ideal of not being ashamed into the comics, like her being a strong woman. And the Amazons played significantly in the earlier books too. And they had the scientific world of the Amazons. Paula von Gunther eventually became one of her friends and a scientist there. I mean, the early comics really brought out a lot of that strength within a society of women, which I thought was fantastic.
And we'll talk about the film version of it in a little bit as well. But one of the things that Patty Jenkins did in the first film, when she brought Wonder Woman to man's world in World War I think, is she kind of did a touch on that as well, where whenever she would show up in her outfit, they would throw a jacket over her, try to keep her covered up and modest in some way, and she just kind of she wasn't having it. And I love that. I thought that it was an interesting point of view on about how comfortable she was in her own skin and didn't need to cover up. I mean, she needed that freedom to be able to move and to fight and to do what she did. So
absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about some of her origins. She's been reinvented a few times over the especially in the comics, but and then the TV series didn't really touch on it too much, and then the film certainly did, especially I think the second one more so than the first one, if I remember correctly. Nope, might have been the first one. Disregard. Actually, I think it was the second one. I have to go back and look. But anyway, her origins have sort of been changed over time. So I'm kind of curious, like when you look at all these origins, or which version of it for you feels the most compelling, and why do you feel that way?
Well, I've had plenty of discussions with people, especially when things change in the comics and I get to argue my point and explain. I am a huge fan of this is how I imagine things being. Queen Hippolyta sculpts a figure from clay on the shores of the island, and influenced by Athena and guiding her hand to create this beautiful child, and then prays to the gods, and Aphrodite brings her to life. So a woman sculpting a female child guided by a goddess, brought to life by a goddess, and basically stemming from the earth, which is a goddess. So all of this feminine energy, the way I've always seen that, is that's what I imagine is the premier origin for me. No male influence whatsoever. And that's where I've always been, and that's where I stand firmly. I will say, though, that I did enjoy a little twist when Perez, when he rebooted her later, included Hermes to give her the power of flight and all that stuff. But he was only one of many goddesses or gods, but he was one of the gods. So, but her origin always being out of love and not out of tragedy, like Superman or Batman. A destroyed planet hurtling to Earth as a child and then thrust into a new world, versus parents being shot in an alley. I mean, all of that to me birthed out of trauma, but yet she's born out of love. And that's something that has always resonated with me. I've written fan fiction about it. I mean, I think it's one of those things that, and you get people who, when they changed it, I think it was in the New 52, when they made her the daughter of Zeus, which made me want to vomit.
Not a fan of
So,
that myself. Yeah.
and it's funny though, because earlier in the comics too, later after her 1940s, there were stories where there was a Hippolyta was with a prince somewhere, and then they had a child together. It was very briefly mentioned, and then it was retconned. And there was also talk and there's some issues of her when she goes back to then Paradise Island, and she ends up fighting against Ares, and then she ends up in the story. It turns out that the daughter, like, she's the granddaughter of Ares through that story. Which in the myths, I think Ares is definitely involved in the birthing of the Amazons in Greek mythology. But so there have been a lot of twists and turns to her story. But the one about the female empowerment of all the women and the goddesses involved just makes me giddy. I would love to see that happen on screen in a movie or TV series, where you can just see all the femininity and all of the female empowerment coming to fruition right there.
I do too, and I love the concept, and you touched on it. Like, she wasn't born out of trauma. She wasn't born out of tragedy. She was born from out of love and out of something completely different. And I think it shaped who she became and how she moves around the world and how she moves about in the world, right? Whereas, well, Superman's supposed to be a paragon of good as well, but still, he uses his fist quite a bit, and Batman is, although he is super intelligent, he does use his fists as well quite a bit. So, and she doesn't do it unless she's provoked or forced into it. So that's always been something I've always liked about her, I think, as well. Um, and then do you have a favorite era? I think for me it's Perez for sure. I don't know, man. It works for me on so many levels. So
I love Perez for a lot of reasons, but I am drawn into the original series from the 1940s, because that, to me, there's something about that, the newness of it all, and everything how Diana's brought into things, and her relationship with Steve Trevor and how that manifests itself too. But and also the adventures that she goes on to Venusia and all these other places and the fantastical stuff. But I was so distraught in the Crisis on Infinite Earths when I didn't know she was going to be basically killed off. Because the internet wasn't a thing. We didn't know things were happening. And I remember reading that and being absolutely devastated, like what's happening here. And then I did hear through a comic book store at that point, oh, they're going to be they're going to be reinventing this universe, and she'll be part of it. And I thought, okay. And I remember opening up, it was Man of Steel #1. It was the first introduction to the new Superman at that time. And in the middle of that book was an insert about a little teaser about the new Wonder Woman series, which I have somewhere. But I cried. I had tears. I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing, and it looks so good, and then couldn't wait for that first issue to come out. So the Perez, the mythological stuff, I ate that up.
Yep, I agree. So
I love that so much, and I like the twists that he put on things, that he took from the original content, twisted it too. Although there are things that I would have done differently with certain characters, probably, but overall, I can't. Yeah, he's definitely my favorite in the more modern versions of that character. That's amazing. So.
And it sounds like you're more of a fan of the Silver Age of Wonder Woman, where it's more fantasy based and all of her adventures. Whereas I think the Bronze Age brings in, well, I don't know for you. You tell me, but for me, the Bronze Age brought in a lot more moral complexity, right, among all of them. Some deeper relationships as well, and it changed things quite a bit. And I'm wondering which version you feel closer to, or which one resonates with you more between those two eras.
Well, it's hard because I like pieces of all of them, and different comics I've read from different versions, different parts of them. one of my most favorite um, I'm going to say episodes, but issues is when she's encountering Dr. Cyber before, like when she was the mastermind of that organization of spies,
Uh-huh.
and then when she gets her face misshapen, and then she has to. There's also the storylines that deal with that, her trying to destroy Diana because of it. But that whole, I know we'll probably get into this later, but I've always enjoyed those books with the idea of the spy elements, like the I Ching and her depowered age. I know people have mixed feelings on it, but I have there's something about that to me brought out different aspects of the character. So that era, whatever age that was, we would call that, but that always fascinated me. But there were always some issues that just stand out, and certain artists that, I mean, Perez, of course, but like Jose Delbo and
Mm-hmm.
um, who else? There's a bunch of them, but I can picture
Greg
some of the.
Rucka was I liked Rucka because he came in and fixed all the stuff from the New 52.
Well, yeah, no, that was fine too. But so there was an artist, and for the life of me, I can't picture the name, but I can picture the comic, and there was a certain style of art of her, and for some reason in that one, I'd have to find it for you, but I remember seeing that, and this was before we even did things like follow artists and writers, because there was no forum, there was no online life to look things up and do that. And so I like a lot of everything. The only run, there were certain runs of the book I did not like. The one when she gets the pants outfit,
I didn't hate that one. I mean, I get, like, it's not Diana that we know, right? But I don't know. I didn't hate it so much. It was fine at the time. But I did miss the costume a little bit, a lot of it,
well,
actually. But
I didn't hate it as much as the New 52.
Yeah, there's not much about the New 52 I really like, man. So.
Well, they changed the costume, and that's a lot of where they drew from some of the animated films. They drew a lot of inspiration of her costume from the blue and silver and red thing with the choker. I mean, it was just hideous. But I'm also a traditionalist. I mean, I like the traditional bodice that she wears, and in some version or another. But yeah, I never truly followed Gold and Silver and Bronze Age specifically. I just know there were certain books and episodes. I keep saying episodes, storylines that came from those different ones that I liked.
That's a great segue. Let's talk about the TV era. We'll dive in. So, do you remember, first of all, the pilot, not the TV series, but I guess it was a pilot from the 60s that was done that never really aired. What was the name of it? Oh shit! I should have wrote it down. I knew I should have wrote it down. Who's Afraid of Diana Prince? I think it is.
Yeah.
Is that it? Yeah, and it had a whole. Yeah, it had a whole Batman TV show series, like the 60s Batman TV show vibe to it or something. That was wild. So, but it never went anywhere. And then after that, that was the very first depiction of Wonder Woman on screen, though, if I am correct.
In live action, I think.
In live action, yes.
Yeah.
And then came the Kathy Lee Crosby version, which is like... it's fine, but I was super excited for what I thought was going to be a fun little TV show, movie, pilot, whatever it was, and then the donkey and all of that. So I was like, what is going on here, man? I'm out. But then comes our beloved Linda Carter, and man, she just embodied and embraced that character in a way that it's hard to match, and I haven't seen anybody do it since. It's been, she really, really was Wonder Woman for me.
Well, to jump back to the movie for a minute with the Kathy Lee Crosby, it's funny because I liked it a lot for what it was. Not for that it was Wonder Woman, but it was Wonder Woman enough at the time Like there were certain scenes, like in the very, very beginning when she's saying goodbye to her sisters, and it's got a very authentic feel with Paradise Island, and she's saying goodbye to everybody, and the clanking of the bracelets as they would grip each other's wrists to say goodbye. That to me was very, I like that a lot. I don't know. I remember when she traveled to Paris, maybe, or somewhere in France, Cap d'Antibes or something, and she opens up her suitcase and she's got a whole thing with a little thing of bracelets. And I was like, I want all of those bracelets. That's what I wanted. The belts that had the rope in it. I mean, I know it wasn't a magic lasso, but there were just things about it that were very intriguing to me. And still, they mentioned the invisible plane. They talked about certain things, but then it was not authentic to the Linda, at least to that aspect. But yeah, when Linda came out, that pilot with Cloris Leachman,
Uh-huh.
that was amazing. And when I've gone back to watch it, it's interesting to see what they were able to accomplish props and set wise with the probably limited budget they were working with to make it look authentic enough that I did question that we weren't in some sort of Grecian palace or we weren't on Paradise Island. And I visited Los Angeles in 2012-ish with a friend of mine who was taking me on a Wonder Woman tour of LA and brought me to the IADC building and brought me to the zoo where they did the Skrill and all that stuff. He showed me the park where the external part of Paradise Island was. And it was fascinating. It sort of popped a little bit of bubbles for me because I was like, oh, this is too real now. It's not really. But yeah, no, the pilot for me never gets old. I'll watch it from time to time just because. And I really enjoyed, I mean, Linda was such a new face, and she was so young and in the first few episodes, her acting, I mean, not that she was an Emmy Award winning actress in that show. I mean, she was good, but I think the first episodes were really a little on the awkward for her, I think, as she was getting her footing in the role.
Yep, and figuring it all out. But I will say this. I was gonna say, I go back and I watch. I have the DVD set, right? So I go back and I will watch these episodes. And I remember, when we were watching them on television, on broadcast television at the time, and they would have these season cliffhangers, right? Season finale cliffhangers. And then you come back 6-8 months later, whenever it is, right? And you pick it up, and you don't notice these things until you start watching them like back to back. But I noticed that out of, I think it was the Skrill episode, and not the one from 1940s, but when he came back, and Skrill came, and then there's a finale that ends the season, and I guess they pick it up later, and you can see a physical difference in her body from where she started working out, and she hired a personal trainer. Her hair was different. You see this difference, but they're picking up on the same shot that they left off on at the cliffhanger. And I catch it every single, and it might be me and it might be the way my brain works, but I see all these little things from a production angle, and I'm like, oh my God, her stature is different. She's muscular. She's leaner. There's a point, I think I want to say it's in season 3, and it's the one where she leaves DC and she goes to California on vacation, and she gets pulled into it's a skateboarding episode, I think. And it's the first time that you see Wonder Woman or Diana like really become aggressive back, and it's just the tiniest thing, and I absolutely love it, is where this guy picks up a chair and he's about to hit her with it, and she does it before she breaks the chair apart and sends him flying. She does this little head tilt thing where she's like, really? I mean, she doesn't say it, but she says it with her face, and it's like, really? It's the most subtle thing, and I absolutely love it. And that's, I guess, what you're saying is, like, when you look at when she first started out versus where she ended up, that she really ended up in such became very comfortable in that character, in that role. And I've had the fortune to see her in concert because Linda
Same.
is a singer and musician, and so having seen her in concert, she comes out and she'll bring a little Wonder Woman bobble doll and set it up on the piano. And what I love about her is she's like a lot of people say. She would say a lot of people would always ask me, why do you why can't you move on from Wonder Woman? And she's like, why would I? It made my entire career. No one would know who I am if it weren't for Wonder Woman, and I will embrace that character until the day I die. And I just love that about her.
Oh yeah, that's one of the nice things is that she's been in a lot of other roles in her life, but she's never been typecast where it doesn't work. I mean, I've seen her in other things. And while we always know, oh yeah, she used to be Wonder Woman, it's not like she couldn't perform in other acting roles. And I have seen her. I saw her, what was it? MegaCon in Orlando a few years back. I forget. It wasn't before. Maybe it was before COVID. I don't remember. A friend of mine got me tickets to go see her. I had a table at Comic-Con selling books, and a friend of mine who's a really amazing person, he's like, oh, did you get tickets to see her? And I'm like, no. It was a bit expensive. And as much as I would love to, and it's a meet and greet, whatever. And all of a sudden I got an email with the ticket stub, and he's like, well, now you have tickets. And I'm like, oh my God. So I'll have to share it with you, but I have a picture. When they did the pictures, she sat in a chair, like a director's chair, and we weren't supposed to talk to her. I mean, we weren't supposed to touch her. Not that I would have touched her, but we couldn't hug her or anything. And I did walk in, and I said, hello. And she's like, hello. And I said, I just want to tell you, I really, you have been such an amazing role model for me. And you've, whatever I said, it was really short. I had thought it out, and she was like, oh, thank you. That's so very sweet. And I wanted to like reach out and touch her hand or something, but I didn't. But I stood there and I'm leaning this way towards her. And I have the goofiest grin on my face. I didn't have a beard then. And it's just, and I was wearing a T-shirt with the Linda Carter Wonder Woman figure. I mean, it's just the stupidest thing. I'll have to show you a picture.
Send it. I'll put it in the episode if you want.
Yeah. But it was, right, and then we heard her singing, and I fell in love with that part of her too. I didn't know she sang as much. I think I knew some of it from some of her the variety shows that she did.
Yep.
But also, I think it was the first time I heard her sing was in Amazon Hot Wax, the episode when she was portraying a singer, which I thought was amazing. And the song about Toto always makes me cry because it was one of those episodes where she just looked different as Diana Prince. She had her hair down. She was
and wavy. And yeah.
It was just, and then you had Rick Springfield in that episode, those episodes. I mean, it was really fun.
Yep.
And I have her album. I have her CD of her album, but somewhere on my wall, I've got the actual record album on the wall. Every so often I'll play it, just the CD, because I'm like, oh, this is nice. And my ex used to say, oh, she's not a good singer at all. I'm like, okay, we're done.
Get out.
Get out.
Exactly.
She sings beautifully. I love what she sings. And seeing her in concert was nice. It was in person, and she was, she was obviously older. She wasn't as young as she was back in this TV show, but it was nice to see her embracing. And she did a little wonder spin for us on stage and all that stuff.
Yeah, we got that too. What I love is because it's always about the hand placement, right? Because the hand has to come over first, and it's always a spin to the right, and everybody wants to go to the left, and it makes me insane.
Yes. Oh, I know.
So, so we could talk about the movies. I don't know if I'm in the minority here. I loved the movies. I especially loved the first one. I remember I was calling every single person I knew in town to get into a pre-screening of this film. And I finally got it. I got in a week early and I got to see it, but I had to sit up front, which is the worst place in the theater for me. I don't like sitting up front, but I sat up front. So I'm watching the movie like this. And that opening scene of the men arriving on the island, that opening battle scene with the Amazons, dude, I cried. I was like, this is the Wonder Woman that I wanted to see brought to life on the big screen. And I'm sorry, there are some issues I have with the story. I know why Patty Jenkins did what she did with certain parts of the story, but my God, that did not disappoint. And
Mhm.
No Man's Land, when she finally reveals herself to the world, Jesus, I mean, it just don't get better than that. Talk about chills, man. It was that first film for me. I saw it 9 times. I think it was. It was just so good. It was crazy.
So it's funny you say that. I saw it for the first time. I saw it with my friend Michael, who had gotten me the tickets to see Linda. So I drove down to Fort Lauderdale, and we both saw it together. He's a huge Wonder Woman fan too. Um, there were days I'd go see it in the morning, and a friend would say, "Hey, I know you want to see this movie. Would you like to come see it?" And say, "Oh, which theater?" And they'd mention it, and I'd still be at that theater, and say, "Oh, I'll just wait here for you. I've just seen the movie." And one day I saw it 3 times at the same theater with friends, and all in all, I think in the theater I've seen it 153 times.
Oh my, okay. Well, see, again, you win.
It was one of those things it never got old for me. And yeah, I mean, after seeing it as many times as I have, I do have some issues with it, but not enough to
To ever,
take
yeah.
away from my joy. And even with 1984, I know there's issues with that film, but for me, there's a lot of pluses that endear me to that movie. That I wish it had done better. I wish there were some things that were a little bit different about it. Um, but
Well,
it's
I have my issues with it too. But I also kind of have to, yeah, I kind of have to temper it with this. Like a lot of stuff that happened with that film, we were in COVID, we were in lockdown in the middle of pandemic. Post production was heavily affected by
yeah.
that. And trying to put a movie out, not knowing you weren't really necessarily going to be able to release it in the theater and do all of like so many things they missed out on with that film. I feel like it was kind of cheated, and there's a lot of issues I have with the story, and we could get into that all day long. But I think at the end of the day, Patty Jenkins wanted to take a very different approach with the tone and the storytelling, and she had every right to do so. And she was leaning into Wonder Woman's core message about hope and strength and truth. And I don't know if it was, and sort of balancing that against desire and greed and all the stuff that the Dream Stone was supposed to provide. And
Mhm.
maybe at the end of the day, she just wasn't able to get what she wanted to get done with it. But at the end of the day, I still loved it enough. I was there the first day it released. Watching it in my living room on the couch, it was the very first thing I watched that morning. I was like, "I'm here, let's do it," and so I was in. So
Yeah, I mean, the things I loved about it that I really made me happy were it had a more comic book feel to it, a little more camp to it. The scene in the mall I thought was wonderful with the lasso and how she handled all of that. Um, Using the tiara to throw it into the camera. I mean, I squealed when I saw that because that was definitely a Linda Carter type.
Mhm.
I guess it's true in the comics as well, but she didn't do that in the first movie. The vibrancy of the colors was also wonderful for me, and I liked the fact that we saw a version of the cheetah. How it panned out again, we can talk about it. We can do another video on that kind of thing. But I liked there was a lot of that truth and love, those core elements of her character, and the mention when she's in where was she? What country was she in? When she found that big book, they were going
Oh.
through and deciphering.
Mhm.
She happens to mention Dolos, who and she another name he went by was the Duke of Deception, which is a nice callback to the comic books. Stuff like that was fun because I was like, oh, that's cute. I know that. That's very cool. And then the throwback to when she was a child and then the games, which I would have liked to have seen in the first movie, honestly, but I get it. I understand why. But yeah, but it's still nice to see her, but learning the lessons that she did. There was a lot of pluses. So I didn't see it. Maybe I've seen it 15 or 20 times since it's been out. Most of them on the computer, on the TV. But yeah, I mean, it's not a movie that I wouldn't recommend to people, but they say, well, they know my fandom, and they say, well, what are your thoughts about it? And it's like, well, watch it first. I don't want to say anything to you. Watch it, and then they come back and go, okay, well, here are my issues. What did you have? And so then we talk about it. But with the first movie, I had a few issues too. I wish it had been World War II and not World War One, but that's what it was. I think the idea was that she was going to be a woman who would appear throughout the ages. And then another movie, they could have also done a flashback scene to World War II, maybe at some point, because they'd already instituted her early enough in history. But the movie, I don't think I blinked when I watched that movie the first time. The entire movie, I just sat there so wide-eyed. And all the little things that they did were amazing. And there was a scene, I'm sure you've seen this, when she jumps through the window. When she's jumping through the window, she takes on a certain pose, and it's a pose from like Wonder Woman 1 from the front cover. But it was such a cool, and as soon as she did that, I was like, I know that pose because I remembered it. But it was nice that Patty Jenkins threw in some of those nice little nuggets, the little Easter eggs that made for people who are fans to know. And she didn't change too much. It wasn't like she changed a lot of it. I mean, she did mention the whole Zeus thing, but the fact that Diana was brought up to believe, that she was sculpted from clay and Zeus brought her to life or whatever it was, at least that was part of the origin I could deal with until later on when you find out about, his true role in her birth. But I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I liked what Patty Jenkins did with the character a lot. I mean, I've watched the Wonder Woman 1 a lot more than I have Wonder Woman 84. But I didn't. There were parts of. There's a lot that I liked about 84. There are parts, and it's mostly story more than anything. I didn't mind the camp. The camp didn't bother me at all. There's just some story issues I had that didn't make sense to me, and then I kind of just at some point I had to say maybe there wasn't a time to be able to fix it, so you just got to let it go, Clifton, and just like move on. But yeah, definitely for sure. All right, so let's talk a little bit then about Wonder Woman as sort of a cultural figure now. So I think she functions as both kind of a warrior and an advocate for peace. She has long been read through feminist and queer lenses. Her symbols, like the lasso, the tiara, and all of her armor, and especially her bracelets, they've become cultural shorthand. So, I mean, looking at all that, and what part of her mythology do you think resonates most strongly today as a cultural icon?
Well, it's interesting, depending on where she shows up in the cultural landscape. In some cases, the lasso, a part of her accoutrements, are when they talk about truth. And I've even heard people on different television programs and even, things you wouldn't expect them to say. And wouldn't it be nice to have Wonder Woman's lasso of truth to get to the bottom of whatever? And it's like, oh, wow, okay. Or a woman or somebody will be talking and saying, if only I had her bracelets to deflect all of the blah, blah, blah. They use it as cultural metaphor, which I love. And even seeing her show up in various ways on TV shows in costume. Smallville, they did that, where they had a version of her costume. I can't think of the show. Leah Taoni, the actress, wore a version. She had to hold on to a costume version of it, and she ended up having to walk down the street wearing the costume and ended up acting a lot like Wonder Woman in the process. It was just fun. But I think
Charm did that as well. They had the belt.
Okay.
So they did an episode with the belt that was linked to, I want to say, was it linked to Hippolyta maybe though? So, but yeah, I've definitely seen versions of that.
But just even her costume, and it's such a noted piece of iconography. Like I could show even my students. I mean, they see it in my classroom anyway, but I could show them just a picture of the costume, and they'd know. They say, well, we've seen that costume before. We've seen it in comic books, or we've seen it on TV or whatever. So just the W emblem, just this alone is, I know. it's one of those things that I'm not a tattoo guy. For me personally, on my body. But if I were going to get one, it would be the W logo somewhere, because that to me is the most noticeable piece of iconography about her. Although the eagle was her first symbol, that W became, through the comics, became her noted because it was copyrightable. But I think, yeah, her presence in popular culture. I mean, even using in popular artwork, when there's a picture of her punching Trump, or a picture of her doing something else. I mean, she's utilized in so much cultural landscape that you can't not know. Anybody who doesn't know who she is probably lives in a country where women are not, shown that way, like the United States and the Western world, Europe, things like that. You'd see that and go, "Oh, Wonder Woman, you know who that is." So,
Well, and to that point, I mean, let's talk about her place in the Trinity, I guess, if you will, but alongside Batman and Superman, and where she fits in DC today. So with all the reboots, the films, the comics, her characterization certainly has shifted, but some traits have always sort of remained consistent, right? So. I'm just kind of curious, what do you see as sort of her defining qualities, and where do you think her character could evolve in the future?
one of her strongest qualities to me has always been her compassion,
Hmm.
her willingness to extend her hand first and help, even a villain, to see what she could do to make their life better, to draw them out of the reasons for their misbehavior. So I think that's one of her strongest qualities to me, is that tied to love. And then, I mean, truth, obviously, but her essence, I mean, okay, Batman's the detective. He's the one who does all the scrutinizing. Superman, he's just got a different vibe about him, and yet his strength is his noted trait. But for her, there's a mixture of things, because she is part warrior. She knows how to handle herself well. She handles any weapon she's given. Um, I find that, but all of her weapons that she wears are not, they're defensive weaponry. They're not offensive weaponry. I mean, her bracelets, they're not, I hate when she carries a sword. I despise that. Unless she's actually fighting in a battle with a sword on purpose. But to have one, I think her bracelets have always been a fascination to me, especially in the early comics when they were really, really small. And that, I would think that takes a lot of skill for a woman to train to deflect a little bullet off of a little piece of metal. So when they're like full length gauntlets, I'm like, okay, that's kind of cheating. At that point, you might as well, like when Linda's were a good size too. I
Yep.
thought that was great. Um, and I think Perez did a nice job. His were a little bit bigger, but the other ones, I don't know. But anyway, getting back to your point, her compassion and truth for me are the strongest things. And as far as where she could go, I haven't. This kind of ties into the current comics. I haven't read all of the current Tom King run. A friend of mine's been sending me the PDFs of them because I haven't been able to buy all of them. There are things about his portrayal of her I'm not 100% fan of, but the idea of her having progeny and having a child for the future, it's always been skirted, because some people want her to be a virgin. They want her to be a asexual figure, and some people want her to be married to Steve Trevor or somebody and have a child. I think having an offspring down the road would be something, at some point would be a good thing, that she can, maybe like her mother, raise a daughter amongst other women to help her, like aunts and other people, to say, let me teach you how to be the way I was brought up to be. And that passing things down, with the wisdom of Athena, to give her that wisdom and that compassion and that love, but also coupled with that, the strength that she needs to hold her own. And that's the best message of her for boys and girls, is staying true to yourself, fighting for truth, and fighting for others, being compassionate, and being able to be honest with who you are as a person, and expecting honesty from those around you, but knowing how to take care of yourself when the situation arises. And I think that's one of her legacies is.
And you know what's interesting, David, is that I saw an interview with Linda Carter a few years ago, and by a few I mean probably 10 or more. And they had asked the question of her, where would you like to see the character of Wonder Woman go? And that her response was motherhood. She would love to see Wonder Woman become a mother for exactly the same reasons that you just kind of laid out there. So I would love to kind of see that as well. I do think that she could bring a lot to that role. Um, that's not sort of typical and anti-feminine in a way, if that makes sense. I don't know if I'm making sense, but anyway.
Well, back in the comics in the World War II era, she and Steve Trevor had Lyta Trevor, who became the hero Fury, and that would be a character I would have loved to have seen explored in a more current comic, because the current daughter she has is somebody else. But bringing that character back, who also becomes a hero and so on, and it tickled me a little bit because I was watching the Sandman TV series. I had to finish the last season, and there's a character, Lyta Hall, but she is Lyta Trevor before she was Lyta Hall. I mean, that's Wonder Woman's daughter. It's never mentioned in that show, but that's who she is in DC canon. So noticing that was there, I was like, oh, it would be so cool if they even showed like in the credits, Lyta Trevor Hall or something, so you could see that she was related to that legacy, you know. But yeah, I think motherhood. I think a lot of people see her because she grows up around women and because of a presumably lesbian type vibe that she might give off, or maybe not finding man as needed in that capacity. People don't like that idea, but she did have a love interest in Steve Trevor, and technically still does, and she always probably will. And having a child with Steve would be like the ultimate, consummation of so many things for her. And raising a daughter or a son would be interesting to see.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Well, I mean, I thought it was beautifully done in the very first Wonder Woman film, their relationship, between Steve Trevor and Diana, Steve and
hmm,
Diana's relationship. And I thought it would have been a nice sort of moment to have for me. Like, what if they had a kid? What if she had a kid, which is why she disappeared from the world,
yeah,
because,
yeah,
um, you know, that was kind of the thing going into, I think, not Justice League, but Batman versus Superman, or I think it was BVS, where they were trying to explain why she disappeared from the world. And I think Bruce Wayne even asked that question, where have you been for so long? And it would have just been a great little, I would have loved to have had that moment where, they don't necessarily need to say it to everybody else, but she disappeared because she had his child, and she
yeah.
raised that child. This feels like a missed opportunity to me. So.
Well, and although it's a bit of a side note to that, but it made me think of this in um, the Batman in the Dawn of Just no the just not was it Justice League? Yeah, I guess it was Justice League.
Yeah, Dawn of Justice, I think. Or
Well, the
no, that was
movie
BVS,
where
wasn't it?
the movie where she stops. They have all the
Steppenwolf.
hostages. Yeah,
Yeah.
when she has all the hostages in the bank, and at the very end of it, she approaches a young girl, and she says, "Is everything okay?" And she says, "Yes." She says, "I want to be like you when you grow up." And she's like, "Oh, you can be." And it would have been the coolest thing if she said, "Oh, what, honey? What's your name?" And she said Donna Troy or something. I would have been like, that would have been
Another
the best
opportunity.
Easter egg. Just for
Yep.
that alone would have been like, because she had the look, she had a
Yep.
dark hair. I was like, oh, so many missed opportunities.
Yep. For
Um,
sure. So. All right. Well, let's do a fun, couple little fun sort of wild card questions if you're game.
yeah, sure.
I would love to know. Give me one or two of your favorite rogue villains from the Wonder Woman Rogue Hall.
Well, the original Dr. Cyber, before she was computerized and robotic, I always saw her as more like in that Bond villain kind of heaven or secret organization of agents, all women. That would be like the dark mirror version of Amazons who would go out and do her bidding, and they were very much smart women, but they were just on the darker side of that, like being that kind of spy-ish kind of thing. I've always loved her that in that way. Um, I also love Cersei.
Cersei is mine. I mean, my
Yeah,
God, I love Cersei so
yeah,
much. I actually have a script that I started with seriously as the sort of main antagonist. So love seriously, she's great.
I think she shows up in the, maybe it's in the Silver or Bronze Age. I don't remember. She shows up, but then when she comes back in Perez,
Hmm.
that's where I fell in love with that character, um, and how she, she's trying to what she's trying to deal with Diana, thinking that she's supposed to inherit her power or something. But the way he drew her whole demeanor, I thought she is the one of the best adversaries, other than Ares. I also love Ares, but I have different feelings for him. But for her, having a female who's powerful, who understands more about her because she's part of her world, like the mythological world. So yeah, I mean, the other one, if you're going to do the three, and they're all women, is Cheetah.
So Cheetah as was on my list originally, but then I changed to Veronica Cale. There's just something I like about Veronica Cale and the fact that she really isn't powered in any way.
Yeah.
And I love that she is a nemesis and an adversary and not powered. And there's something to me that's very intriguing about that. So,
Well, it's funny because in the comics, I remember seeing her, and then she was in the Wonder Woman Bloodlines animated movie,
mhm.
and which is not my favorite animated movie for Wonder Woman, but her character I liked because of her sense of power, her sense of being put on an equal playing field with Diana in other ways.
Mhm.
She wasn't someone who's going to cower and wasn't going to crumble around her. So I could see her. But the Cheetah version that I love the most is the Perez one, the Urs Cartaga, that bloodlust. That to me made a darker character of the one. I mean, other than say Debbie Domain in the earlier comics or Priscilla Rich, which are also amazing Cheetah figures. But this one, which is what I would have loved to have seen tied to in the movie in '84, as opposed to Pedro Pascal and all of that, I would have loved to have seen her coming across the magical, um, the Urs Cartaga worship or whatever it was. All of that to me, those three together, like fighting against her, the original Dr. Cyber, Cersei, and Cheetah, would be, I mean, to watch a movie of that alone would be
I know, right?
absolutely amazing because they all bring up different qualities. The feral quality of Cheetah, you have the brains and the intricacies of Cyber, and then you have the mythological whatever or the magic of Cersei. All that together for me, it would be, I don't know. I'm a very much a strong female character vibe person. It's not so
Same.
much the males. So, and it's really funny because in the novel series I'm finishing, Cersei plays a major role in this book I'm working on, but and in more of a advisory role to another character. But it's because of seeing her in the comics, seeing her in Madeline Miller's novel. Have you read Madeline Miller's Cersei?
I have not, but
Oh,
I'm gonna put it on my list right now.
she wrote Song of Achilles, which is
Uh-huh.
another one which you'd like because it's mythology too. But Cersei is a story taken from Cersei's point of view. It's phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. Song of Achilles will make you cry, but in a good way. But Cersei was one of those books. I mean, Madeline Miller, I fell in love with her. So, but all of the mythological, and you can see how she's a very complex character too, in the way she shows up. But
All right, I just
yeah.
made a note for it. All right, real quick, dream casting for supporting characters. So I don't know if you have a couple of supporting characters that you like. For me, I would love to see Nubia come to life, and
Oh,
there is nobody else that can play Nubia for me but Anna Diop.
okay. Yeah.
So I just absolutely would love to see that happen.
Yeah, it's funny, fan casting for me with more current people is hard because there are certain characters I don't know enough about. Like for Wonder Woman fan casting, I couldn't tell you because I'd rather her be more of an unknown than a more known figure. It's hard to look at her because Linda was an unknown.
Well, that was how I felt about casting Wonder Woman herself, and people would ask me this all the time. They're like, "Who would you like to see play Wonder Woman in the film?" This is before Gal and Patty and all of that, and I'm like, I think it needs to be someone that we haven't met before, because I feel like anybody else that comes into that role is going to come with a lot of baggage, and you have to really embrace that character, much like Linda Carter did, exactly like what you're saying. So, so for sure, for the Wonder Woman character, especially with whatever James Gunn is going to do with her, I would love to see that. I'd love to see a new face. That would be my thing. But you know who I also want to see is Donna Troy, and I know Teen Titans brought Donna Troy to life, but I would love to see. Did you ever see the movie? I think it was a Hulu movie, Prey, which is part of the Predator franchise. Do you remember the main character in that, Amber Midthunder?
Yep.
I'd love to see her as Donna Troy. That to me,
I could see it. Yeah,
that to me would be some great sort of fun casting. So.
Well, and Connor Leslie did I thought she did a great job.
Love Connor Leslie. I thought she was fantastic. So
yeah, that was. I wish they didn't do her right in that series at all.
Not at all.
So
yeah, I mean, it was a lot of missed opportunities with her. But when she first faced off against Starfire in the first, was it the second season? When they brought her on, I loved it. I was like, "Oh, all right, so you've met your match, Starfire." So, it was great. Well, my friend, we have been talking for over an hour about Wonder Woman, but I could talk all night long. But I know it's late where you are, so I'm going to wrap this up. But I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time, and like I said, for you guys, we've been threatening to do this for a long time, so we made it happen. So, enjoy and let us know sort of what your best and worst casting choices are for Wonder Woman. So, all right, you guys, we'll see you next time on Quills and Chills. Talk soon. Cheers.
Bye.